Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first part of Planet Krynoid, which is subtitled Nightfall. And the first part of that, because this is split into 3 stories, is called Sunlight. We're going to talk about Sunlight today. I found it a little disappointing. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's very enjoyable. But as someone who loves the Krynoids and loves Seeds of Doom, I mean, it's one of Tom's best season finales. It's one of the show's best season finales. Tom's best season finale is Talons, but Seeds of Doom is a close second. And I just love the creatures themselves. They're just deliciously creepy, and I love it. Now, the start of the episode, where of course it takes place on kind of a satellite space station deal, and you have a couple people up there. You have 2 engineers, one named Petrov, sounds Russian, and a girl named Maggie. And of course, 2 of the pods have embedded themselves in the structure, and it's the engineers going to investigate. That part, the beginning is done really well. Everything on the satellite there is done really well. There's tension, there's atmosphere, there's some good music going on. The characters are doing the dialogue. The dialogue is good. I enjoy the dialogue. I enjoy the performances. I feel like most of the people in this are putting in good performances, especially the 2 engineers here. And of course, one of them gets attacked by the Krynoid and wrapped around. While he's in space, you just hear him scream through the headset, the male engineer, Petrov. The problems with this is really hard to review. We'll get right into spoilers. Part of the problems with this is people don't behave exactly like they do in Seeds of Doom when they're infected. Now, to be fair, even in Seeds of Doom, one of the guys who was infected was basically comatose as soon as he got infected. Whereas the other guy, Keeler, was awake and aware and afraid and angry. So, I mean, I go with the canon that... I go with the theory that how it assimilates each victim depends on the victim. Maybe their metabolic rate, you know, kind of like maybe an alien facehugger on somebody. It takes longer per person for the embryo to grow and hatch and come out, you know. So I feel like maybe it affects each person differently. And again, we kind of see that even just in Seeds of Doom. And it's interesting to hear... This is definitely one of those stories where the audience knows more than the people on the planet. Because while the 8th Doctor we know is in Planet of the Krynoid, he's actually not in Part 1. Well, really. We'll get to that. But he's really not there. So it's basically our guest cast. And they have no idea what's going on. So we know as the audience more than they know what they're dealing with. And they don't realize how much of a threat these 2 pods are, how dangerous the Russian guy being assimilated is, or being infected is. And so the whole time when they're talking, as the audience, we're sitting here going, no, 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 don't do that, don't do that. Like there's one guy who wants to just destroy the pods immediately, and you're like, yes, yes, listen to that guy. And then there's another kind of business guy. It's like, no, no, these are the property of such and such. And you're like, no, no, that guy's an idiot. Don't listen to him. There's a lot of people saying, you know, there's actually a part where they think the guy being infected could be good at first because, you know, all of the plant stuff going on in his cells curing every kind of sickness he might have. They've run cultures of him, that it's fighting off every kind of disease, that this could be a symbiotic relationship and that it could permanently eliminate disease, you know, and they're like, yay, we've discovered something new. And I'm, of course, sitting there going, no, 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 no. There is a lot of that in this Part 1. Where you're just like, these fools! I don't know what my voice just did there. These fools! So, like, it's kind of funny knowing more than the characters do, and then watching his thing slowly take a tragic turn. Learning that there was a colony here before that nobody quite knows what happened to. There's some old ruins of it, but nobody goes there because there's supposed to be radiation fallout. How that ties into the story and hints at this isn't the first time Krynoid pods had landed here, and they're probably what wiped out the first settlement. And the fact that the one guy who is infected, who's close to Maggie, and it hints at really close, because Maggie's married and has a son, but her and her husband don't get on well. And it's kind of hinted that either Maggie and Petro, well, the Russian guy, that maybe they're having an affair, or maybe she's having an affair with him. It never quite hints if they're actually sleeping together. Well, it never quite explicitly says whether they're actually sleeping together or whether they're just close and that they care for each other. It doesn't quite touch into that. I like that little detail, though, because it makes the characters a little more realistic to me, knowing there's like a married person in this who doesn't get on with their husband and is kind of, you know, feeling far more emotionally attached to a coworker that's become a friend and maybe more. That's realistic, and I enjoy that. It just adds another layer to the story, and how that plays into it when the Russian guy escapes, and he kind of wants to hide out at Maggie's house, and the husband is very against that, which causes other problems. There's some really good dialogue in those scenes in that house. Really good dialogue right there. And as it's taking a long time for the Thing to take over the Russian guy, it really only has really taken him over at the end of part 1. It's really interesting. And you get little bits of how he can hear the grass and he can hear sounds. It's like, it's not just me here. I hear other noise, other screams, which it's interesting. It gives you kind of an in-depth look at what's going through an infected person's head. Maybe if they're one of those that turns more slowly. That's kind of fascinating. Most of the other characters, I don't know. Most of them don't feel that fleshed out to me. I don't even remember characters' names. And then the cliffhanger is really good because they end up going to where the original collie was, the one they're not supposed to go to. They find out there's no radiation there. All they find is a cryopod where it looks like someone's been frozen, which you assume is maybe one of the first infected. Maybe they managed to freeze it and stop it. But the Russian guy who's turned at this point, who's fully one of the Krynoids now, is coming in. So they when they turned on all the power, it managed to wake up the pod, and the pod opens, and boom, the 8th Doctor pops out, and that's where the episode ends. That's interesting. It was an enjoyable listen, but it was a disappointing listen. It wasn't bad. It was, you know, kind of middle of the road with some good spots in it. Like there's a whole nother subplot where one of the main guest characters' wife is sick with an illness and she's dying. And when they still think the Krynoids can cure disease, cure infection, they take the other pod and let it, you know, attach to her, thinking, hey, symbiotic relationship. Maybe it can heal my wife and free her, and they don't realize that it's actually, you know, the Krynoid is actually parasitic until after she's infected. So watching her slowly start to change, like she wakes up and is craving meat, just craving meat, and the husband's like, but you're a vegetarian. I like that. That's enjoyable. It's a nice little side plot there going on. I don't really quite know what to describe it. I think you can tell from my review, it's really hard for me to get excited and engaged for this. Maybe it'll pick up with part 2. It was a fine listen. It was okay. It was maybe middle of the road. I don't know if I'd rank this C tier, maybe D tier. The intro was great. I loved the first part. The first part was really good. And then it was nice to see McGann kind of show up in the end. And I do kind of like the fact that it's Dr. Light. You know, I do like the fact that because the Doctor's not there, it gives more freedom for the story for them to make all of these mistakes, what turn out to be mistakes, which us audience members know are mistakes, but for them to make them because they don't have the Doctor here to go, no, don't do that. So that's interesting and a nice dynamic, and I'm curious to see how things are going to kind of kick into gear with part 2 with the Doctor showing up, and that hopefully he can turn things around. So, yeah, not bad, just disappointing because I had it built up in my head that it was going to be so much more. But again, it's just the first part. Maybe the second and third parts will make it a more complete whole. We'll see. So, Sunlight, the first part of Planet Krynoid with this very random review. I want to know what you think of it. Comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon. I certainly appreciate if you would check that out, see if there's anything there that interests you, several different tiers there to choose from. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney, Sam Venning, Unknown289, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. All the other fun stuff down in the description, links to the Amazon wishlist, links to the Amazon UK wishlist, the P.O. Box, all that fun stuff. Most importantly, thank you for watching.